Yeah, that physics video. Sort of, I guess. Comments, mostly one asshole, and it's typical, pretty much. Um, so I figure I'll just read some of these comments. I mean, they're comments by some jackass who's defending I don't know what. Seems almost like it's the Ken Wheeler kind of type, Tesla type. Um, but anyway, he calls himself the case for reality. Um, don't think so. So he says, why do you think light can only go light speed? Because when it's tested, that's what it does. It goes consistent speeds, you could argue. Um, but, yeah, and it's the force, it's the speed of force is the real point. The other forces travel at the same speed as light, magnetism and gravity. And the math works that way. It kind of demonstrates it. I guess that would be another thing, is that the mathematical premise of the speed of light, or the speed of force, reveals itself in the sense that using that constant in equations will get you the right answer. So anyway, why do you even accept that for a premise? Because there's evidence supporting it. That's why I personally do. You already threw out everything else Einstein ever had to say about physics. I don't think that's exactly true, and as I'm arguing, Einstein's interpretation of what speed means, um, covering distance, in my opinion, time is distance. That's what the constant means. It ties time and distance together in a hard manner through the speed of light. So you can't do this screwing with distance thing. Now this is for, not in a medium, of course. Because mediums end up being longer paths, but I've already stated that. But Einstein's, the redshift, the gravitational redshift, in my opinion, creates more space, more distance, and therefore breaks the speed of light. I don't think you can create such a thing as space or distance without moving objects the speed of light that can't move the speed of light, or changing the speed of light. Alright, and you don't even understand what speed of light means. Well, fuck you. I'm deleting the comment. I mean, it's a piece of useless rhetoric. I'm making an argument. Whether I understand or not is irrelevant. You either make a counter-argument supporting it with evidence, or you shut the fuck up. If you think light moves faster than light, go ahead, prove it. You think it moves slower than light? Prove it. It's stupid. I mean, it's slower than the constant. It means it does that in all IRFs. More of this inertial frame crap. Again, I've already argued why I don't think frames are relevant. I don't think they're a physical reality. I don't think there is any such thing as a framed piece of space. That's what Einstein said. No, what Einstein said is that you can't give light momentum. That was the implication to what he was saying. You can't add to its speed. You can't move light forward like a baseball. You can't throw it on a train. You can't stand there with your flashlight on a train going 70 miles an hour, like with a baseball, and throw the baseball off the train and have the baseball go faster than 70 miles an hour and not travel in a straight line. Light doesn't do that. That's what Einstein was saying. You can't make it go faster, you can't make it go slower by throwing it in a direction. That's what he was saying. How that's been converted is your people's problem, where you think it means, no, well, if I'm standing on the hand, the light will always move the same speed, or some other bullshit. Alright. That's what Einstein said. That's what you say he said. I mean, his exact quote, we could read it together and argue about what it says, because it basically just says you can't give light the motion of the emitter, the momentum of the emitter, can't influence the speed of light. You say we're believing something incoherent. It's incoherent to me. It's what Einstein believed. I don't know what exactly Einstein believed. Okay, but Einstein obviously argued for what I think are wrongly premised notions of reality. As Einstein stated 2 years before he died, after 50 years of studying photons, I haven't learned a damn thing. So you're saying Einstein was an idiot. Well, I'm saying Einstein was pretty dissatisfied with his own advancement in his understanding. After 50 years of study, he said, I didn't advance my understanding any. So that's sort of him calling himself an idiot. I guess for believing IRFs. I think it was a mistake to invent bent space, to tie time to a dimension, because it's a function, it's not a dimension. And the whole frame crap, yes, I think it's just a silly notion to think physics changes because two things interact in a space. The space doesn't change. The functions of the objects don't change because they're trapped in some stupid frame together. So really you're no better than a person who calls Einstein a fuzzy-haired fool. Well, again, I obviously am not calling him a fuzzy-haired fool. I'm saying it's a very creative invention, but it's wrong. I'm calling him wrong, idiot. Or who calls NASA scientists liars? I don't know why that would be brought up. How exactly is saying Einstein was wrong the same as calling a scientist a liar? It's not a rational argument. Delete. Rubbish. Make an argument. An argument is constructed out of things that are argued to be facts, and then you defend the facts with evidence. That's the process, jackass. Okay, believing particles go at constant speed without time dilation is far weirder than anything in physics because of all the laws that would break. Like what? There's no law that breaks if you don't play the time dilation game, because most of the dilation takes place in circumstances where, frankly, I don't think much matters even in those circumstances, where the dilation by the Lorentz transformation, obviously the dilation doesn't really start happening until you get up to some really interesting speeds. But regardless, the function of particles function fine without being time dilated. So that statement, believing particles go at constant speed, what particles? You mean light? Is that what you mean? What particles go at constant speed? There's no claim that particles go at constant speed. There's a claim that light and other forces like magnetism and gravity go at constant speed. So your sentence is rubbish. Yeah. So there's no laws that are broken. Anyway, conservation of energy. Well, that ought to be funny. Momentum. Pretty much anything post Aristotle. Conservation of energy is broken because you don't time dilate. I'm saying it's just plainly show me where you can't make the physical universe work just fine without time dilation. Also, it would contradict reality. Again, in what way? You're not making an argument in the proper manner. You're just making claims with no evidence nothing even close to a hint of what the evidence might be. And again, I've already argued that time dilation does happen, but it doesn't necessarily happen in any kind of consistent manner. Clocks break when you give them velocity. There's no evidence that they break in any consistent manner. Some will break more than others. And I'll argue that if they ever push human beings to any kind of speed like half the speed of light, the human being will not survive. His material structure won't be able to maintain the speed and function as it functions. That's my claim. But again, that's not necessary to any of this conversation. It's not vital to understand that, to understand the difference between particle gravity and bent space, which is the real conversation. Alright, delete. Alright, next comment. It's just a bunch of comments. I mean, I hate people who post a whole bunch of comments on one video. I think it's just rude. But they're rubbish comments to boot, so they're just not worth it. However, waves in a fixed medium would go a constant speed like what you say photons do, not particles. But waves wouldn't behave anything like a discrete particle in the sense that waves would spread. There's no way to construct a wave that isn't intrinsically moving matter, the medium, as it moves. And the whole word wave describes something that does this in every, there's no such, we have no description of the wave that's like a photon torpedo or something. We have no demonstration of any other wave in all of physics that's anything like a light wave. Nothing similar. There's nothing to compare it to. There's no medium where it functions the way light functions, and whatever the medium is, you claim light's traveling through. The expansion expands in directions that aren't the direction it's moving in. So whatever to that statement. You don't need to be a wave to go a constant speed. It's a simple response to that. Physicists need to create explanations like bent space, virtual particles, and they do this kind of like how you invent red-blue arrows that travel through the universe at a constant speed and bounce at right angles. So you're saying the idea of a simple particle that has properties, two properties, polarization and a constant speed. So that's the only properties it has, polarization and a constant speed. You're saying that premising a universe on that complex weirdness is the same as inventing something like bent space that creates a perpetual convergence engine, sucking matter into things. You're saying those two things are comparable as descriptions of function in terms of they're just as simple and just as made up. I'll argue that in a sense they're both efforts to describe reality. They had to be invented as something you imagine because we can't see the actual thing, so you have to imagine a model. They're both descriptions of a model, and I'm saying one is a billion times more cognizable. You can see it in your head. You can make it work in your head. It's as real as a checkerboard. And the other is completely an abstraction that can't even be imagined in 3 dimensions in any kind of rational way. Let alone, how does it do it? By what magic does it grab things and pull them? So, bullshit is all you can say to crap like that. To compare the two theories, in my opinion, like that is bullshit. The other point I would make is my red and blue arrows traveling at constant speed also unify physics. Asshole. Which bent space doesn't do. Asshole. Alright. What the hell are you even talking about? Question mark. What the hell are you talking about? What exactly provoked your question, shithead? The whole video? Anyway, physicists aren't doing the math as they're fucking watching out of a window in a spaceship. Who said they're doing math while they're fucking watching out of a window in a spaceship? Who made that accusation, retarded person? I didn't do it. They do the math and then test the predictions afterwards. Again, the whole idea of these useless predictions, in the sense that Einstein predicted it may be possible that you could that you will be able to test for gravitational lensing. Didn't think it was likely, but that was his prediction. Now, was that prediction correct? See, I mean, you test the predictions with what? Weak evidence experiments that don't really test the prediction. You're stating that light's a wave, yet your evidence that light's a wave, in my opinion, is incredibly weak, in the sense that even if you compare it to water waves, it's only similar to water waves in the two-slit experiment, and there's absolutely no similarity to water waves in the single-slit experiment. So what you call testing a prediction is what's really being argued here. How rigorous do these tests have to be? You know, anywhere in the 5-mile ballpark or something? No, fuck you, stupid comment. Alright, the speed of light would be different in different directions if what? So again, I'm not the one arguing the speed of light is different ever. I'm the one arguing that the speed of light is always the same. And it doesn't give a fuck about what you perceivers are doing. If you're, as a perceiver, moving just as fast as the light, you're not going to see it moving the speed of light. That's just a fact. You can't see the photons, but yes, you can see a laser beam, you know, a good enough laser. You can see the beam. And let's say you could see it at certain points because you had a on-off frequency or something. If I was traveling 3/4 the speed of light, and then somebody zoomed up next to me and shot a laser beam, I'm not going to be able to see the laser beam go away from me at the speed of light. It's just not possible. Because the light's just not traveling fast enough to appear as if it's moving away from me at the speed of light. It just can't do it. I'm going the same way, 3/4 of the speed. The light would have to travel the speed of light plus 3/4 to appear like it was moving the speed of light away from me. It's a fact. What? Relativity were true. So the speed of light would be different in different directions if what? Relativity were true? I'm saying the speed of light is broken if your idiotic notion that you can shoot light across a spaceship and it actually goes forward, travels a longer distance in the same amount of time. It does this distance in the same amount of time it does this distance. That's breaking the constant, retard. Because the Earth is moving, I don't know what that means. So actually light speed would appear faster to us coming toward our direction of motion. Yes, it would appear faster because we're shortening the distance. Now, if we could cut it to each like a tiny Planck constant of time, okay, then I guess you're not even measuring how fast the light's moving. But clearly, perceptually, we're shortening the distance it takes the light to get to us. So clearly, yes, it would get blue shifted by our perception because we're capturing it sooner than we should have. And so we're reducing, making tighter the frequency. And yes, the light will be appearing to be moving very fast because we're helping it by moving towards it, by shortening the distance. So actually light speed would appear faster to us coming toward our direction of motion. And it doesn't. Well, you say it doesn't. You're adding, what, you think you can run 60 miles an hour and you'll be able to see the difference between the speed of light plus 60 miles an hour and the speed of light without 60 miles an hour extra? So 3 million meters a second, you can tell the difference between 3 million meters a second and, 3 million meters a second and 3,000,003,000 meters a second. You can tell the difference? I don't think you can, shithead. Faster coming towards us in our direction of motion, and it doesn't. Well, again, you say it doesn't. So you keep just making these statements that, I don't want to have to keep repeating myself, but that's not a proper argument. See, if you're going to emphatically say something's true, then you're going to have to demonstrate it by making an argument. Now, I've made lots of arguments over the 400 videos I have posted here, so some of my statements I don't need to re-argue because I've already argued them. But you do, if you want your comments to stay on this board. Idiot. Alright, who's breaking the speed of light exactly? As I stated, I think Einstein is. As soon as you say light is shifted after it leaves a source, so I could shoot light, and then in gravity somewhere out here it starts to stretch. That's making more distance. If I change the frequency of the light, that means I've stretched it. That means I've stretched the space. There's no way to get around that. It's more space, more distance. So yeah, so in a sense Einstein's breaking his own rules. Einstein said the speed of light is constant in all inertial frames. What he said was the speed of light is constant regardless of the emitter's motion. You still don't know what that means. Yes, you still don't know what that means. Jesus Christ. So somebody, J. Ash, said the case for reality. He understands what it means. He claims his claim is that the description is irrational. I claim that the description is wrong. I claim the idea of an inertial frame is nonsense, made up Tinkerbell bullshit. There's no such thing. And that I claim that light isn't a baseball, and you can't give it two momentums. And that's what these people are claiming. They're claiming the light acts just like a baseball on a train, except, okay, somehow it goes at constant speed. So somehow it acquires extra momentum to get to further away places, but somehow it doesn't go any faster. It's a silly notion. That's stupid. Yes, that's irrational. Okay. Let's see. I thought I read this one already, but hubris hackstock. I think the problem is even worse. They say the angle of deflection, so this is on gravitational lensing, the sun lensing. They say the angle of deflection is reciprocal to the radius. So you have lensing at any distance from the lensing object, yes. They say the sun has a focal point at 542 AU. but it also has a focal point at double that distance, namely 1084 AU, since it's deflecting light at 2 times r, half as strong as at the surface. Right, the gravity gets weaker, and you have a well, regardless, but okay, I'll finish what he's saying. Following this argument, the sun has infinite focal points at distances larger than 542 AU. From this simple geometric consideration, it follows that every object should produce Einstein rings which could be observed provided you're far enough away. Well, clearly, because the Hubble can change what angle it's looking at, it could also make anything pass the sun at its center. And so it could turn anything into an Einstein ring. So if there was a particularly far away and very bright object, it clearly should be able to Einstein ring it. True enough. Which could be observed provided you're far enough away. Given that, shouldn't we observe a universe completely distorted by gravitational lenses? Yes, and the point is that our own sun should do that distorting. They have simulations of what a black hole would look like in space, and they show these simulations that were done in blenders, actual real-world blenders. But yes, that's what they claim it would be like, is everything would be getting swirled and bent by this tremendous gravity. The light would be being distorted. And the effect wouldn't be as dramatic with our sun, but it would be an effect that any time-lapse camera should be able to detect. Another fact they're not pointing out is that we can do video now. Where the regular Eddington guy, he couldn't take a video of the eclipse or a video through the telescope. But we can take video now. Okay, so we can watch the entire motion. And the truth is that, as I understand it, the actual motion of an object would be that it would pop out from behind the sun, go backwards, and then go forward again. Now, that's something you just can't miss, and they could videotape it. So it wouldn't be just getting an image of a thing in the wrong place. It would be an image of a sun going forward, going backward, and then going forward again. That would be pretty dramatic evidence. Given that, shouldn't we observe a universe completely distorted by gravitational lenses? We don't. Another observation we don't have. According to the theory, we should see reflections of outside objects inside the Einstein ring. Again, we don't, as far as I know. And yes, as far as I know, there's a ton of places in the universe that we know there's heavy gravity, and there's plenty of space around those things that should be capable of lensing. There's some stuff behind them that we should be able to lens, and it doesn't happen. Why doesn't it happen? Why are the lenses in all the wrong places? All the galactic lenses. Why aren't they where the gravity's supposed to be strong? Okay. But clearly the Hubble telescope could follow a planet through its distorted path and demonstrate it we wouldn't need a bunch of mathematical models. We would be able to see the actual perverted motion. Okay. Case for reality. Light imparts momentum. Now, I've never argued otherwise. What I've argued is light can't collect momentum. Okay, light has momentum, 1 quanta per photon.
But it can't collect any more than that.
It can't go two ways and turn it into one way at a faster speed. It can't do this simple triangle hypotenuse, as I've been over this and over this. Ever heard of a solar sail? I've heard of them, but I don't think I don't think it's going anywhere. Put it that way. You can make a solar sail windmill with a piece of paper that are black and white. Says you. Yeah. Sail where with it? That's proof light carries momentum. Is it? I don't think it's proof that light carries momentum, because you have to go through the process of figuring out whether you're reflecting the photons or actually absorbing the photons. So you don't know whether you're actually absorbing the energy or just creating heat, and the heat is moving it. So those are tricky questions. Anyway, that's proof light carries momentum. That's another experiment you could do but never will. So again, I've never said light doesn't carry momentum. What I've said is you can't combine momentums. A photon can't carry more than the momentum of its speed of light. You can't make it go. It can't go the speed of light this way and 60 miles an hour that way. It can't be on a bus going 70 miles an hour this way and then go the speed of light this way. Still going this 60 miles an hour this way. It can't go 60 miles an hour this way and the speed of light that way. That's what Einstein was saying. The emitter can't add momentum. And you people keep wanting to force the emitter to add momentum, which means light goes forward instead of light going sideways. That kind of thing. Been over it and over it. So your premise of this comment is irrationally disconnected from anything I've said in my videos. Delete. Alright, no, Hofstadter didn't make it up. Einstein did, Lorentz did, Poincaré did. I care? I don't even know what you're talking about. You should at least quote the phrase that you're objecting to in the comment. It's just silly to comment on somebody's channel through an hour-long video as if people know what you're responding to. Oof. Doesn't matter who made it up. We're arguing with the people who are defending the fable. Who cares who invented Tinkerbell? You people are defending Tinkerbell's real. Well, no, Tinkerbell isn't. Okay, that's not allowed here in reality. So now he's actually did quote what I said, but it's so far distant from a context, who the hell knows what the point was. You're not qualified to decide what's in reality. I'm just as qualified as you, asshole, so fuck you. Alright, so this might be the last one. Alright, so I respond to this one in text, so. No, it's not creating Newton's rings because the interference patterns cancel out when there is a high density of holes. Math greater than your intuition. Now, there's no, I know of no facts defending that statement. I don't think, I think I've seen Professor Lewin say exactly the opposite, and the math basically has an unlimited notion to the n value, the n being the number of lines in a diffraction pattern, in a diffraction gradient. So I think this piece has like 500 lines in it. Alright, and it's fairly transparent. I mean, not, I don't know, 30% loss, maybe 20%, something like that. But there's no distortion in the image. I mean, the camera doesn't jump all over the place. There's no real horror story here. But it's just a fact that when you shine light through it, it does something quite different than just transparent. So if I take it and I shine a laser beam through it, you'll see that it, oops, I'm holding it the wrong way. I hold it this way. I think, let's see, oops, now I got it the wrong way again. That's going up and down. Alright, there, you should be able to see those. Now that's the reality. So there's, these dots go, whatever, 3 on each side, 4 on each side. 3 anyway. Evenly, well, proportionally spaced. And that's what happens to the light. There's no laser beam between the dots. I mean, no substantial beams. It's clearly segregated. Now, this image doesn't show that. But, so clearly there's a difference between a beam or an intensity of light and sending images through a diffraction gradient. The two things have a different effect. And in Michelson-Morley, which is the conversation about interferometers and using beam splitters, that's the context. Alright, so he says, alright, so let's say his comment again. No, it's not creating Newton's rings. So the point is those are lines. So if you break all the lines and make them random, it sort of will be Newton's rings, because the wavelength of the light is sort of deciding how far away those dots are. And Michelson-Morley used white light with the purpose of basically picking up the fringes were created because the diffractor, the diffraction gradient, the beam splitter, was basically functioning like a prism and showing the separation of the phase difference between the red light and the blue light. And those were the fringes they were comparing. Alright, so he says, no, it's not creating Newton's rings because the interference pattern cancel out when there is a high density of holes. There's more density in those lines than there are in a half-mirrored glass. Half-mirrored glass sometimes has holes probably as big as the end of a needle. Maybe a quarter the size of a period in a sentence. Sometimes the holes are rather large. But clearly that gradient that has maybe 1,000 lines per inch is as fine a gradient as a half-silvered mirror. So you're wrong. So you just made this arrogant statement and it's wrong. There's no canceling out with density. It pretty much just makes them more and more perfectly round. Alright, so I stated, if not diffraction, what are they using for the phase comparison? Okay, again, I'll point out, Michelson-Morley was comparing the fringes on white light that was separated, and that's exactly what one of these diffraction gradients will do. If you turn it at an angle, you'll see it happen, but I mean, if I shine white light, a beam of white light through it, it'll separate the red and blue light, just like a prism. That's exactly what it does. Alright, let's see, so I said, okay, if not just what are causing the phase comparison? Cancel out into what? I mean, the word cancel out doesn't even make any sense. The light clearly goes to some place. It doesn't get canceled out. So, when somebody says cancel out, there's no such thing. Photons can't be made to disappear. You can make them go someplace else, but you can't make them cancel out. How would it change the fact that the one path is diffracting for more distance? So again, the argument is regardless of how transparent this film appears to be, okay, it diffracts beams of light you shine through it. And that's a fact. I didn't make it up. If I shine even white light through it right now and look at this screen, let's polarize the screen, but there's absolutely no shift. There's no red shift or blue shift. There's no smearing of the image at all. But if I shine white light through it, it's going to come out separated. Why don't you explain that? I don't know off the top of my head why that's true, but it seems to be true. At certain angles, if I hold this at certain angles, you will see, I don't know if it's going to do it for the camera, but you'll see the light being prismed, separated, revealing the wavelength difference. All right. Yeah, that's it for my comment, right? How would it change the fact that the one path is diffracting for more distance? So again, the argument is the beam splitter does not create two equal beams. The one that's diffracted through the holes, the one that goes through the slits, so to speak, and the one that bounces off the surface of the slits, one is diffracted, one is not. And one isn't diffracted till the last stage, and the other one is diffracted at the first stage. And the diffraction means a widening of the beam. And you haven't explained how that doesn't actually happen. Okay, so now he says, I'm no mind reader, but I think you think they're measuring whether the diffraction patterns are the same from each beam. Now they're measuring whether the phases are the same by comparing, yes, whether the both beams have the same on-offs in the same place. That's how they tell whether they're in phase. And that's what they were doing. Asshole. So yes, that's what I believe, because that's what I read. Okay, so he just says emphatically again, that's not what they're doing. That's what Michelson-Morley did. So you saying that's not what they're doing, it's what they did. And the diagram of their experiment, I haven't seen a single diagram of their experiment that has anything like an aperture in it, a little tiny aperture. No apertures. No other method for diffracting and creating the red and blue phase shift necessary to call it a fringe. Nothing to create the fringes. They called them fringes. Fringes created by what? Fringes have to be created by something. There's no fringes without something making them, causing them. Okay. They're testing whether the way the two beams combine changes over the course of rotation. And the way they're measuring that is to see if the fringes constructively or destructively interfere. They're looking at the fringes. If one beam gets slower, nonsense, the way the beam combines with the other would change. Yes, that's perhaps true, but again, if the two beams aren't being diffracted, that is, they're not being spread, then the two beams won't have any fringes, and therefore you won't see any difference because the two beams will still just add up to an amount of light, and the same amount of light will show up. So without fringes, you have nothing to compare. And when I say combine, I mean combine in the way waves do, aka interfere. So again, how can they do that when they weren't split? In the sense that you have to first create fringes before fringes can interfere. Just a fact. Just a fact. That's what they're measuring. Well, if it were possible just to take two flashlights that were a coherent light and push them together, just shine them in the same location, and if they were out of phase there would be all kinds of some sort of distortion or interference, then you wouldn't have to do these complex experiments, would you, asshole? Also, the two-way mirrors are see-through. So again, so is a 1,000-line diffraction gradient. Not the point. Not relevant. So what? Doesn't change the fact that beams shine. Have you ever shined a laser beam through a two-way mirror? You know, through the transparency part, the transparent part. Have you? Let's see. Two-way mirrors are see-through. So if you knew anything about how optics work and how images are formed in the eyeballs, you'd realize that the light isn't Newton ringing. Well, as I just pointed out, there's absolutely no way to look at this piece of film and know from just looking at it that if I shine a laser through it, it's going to come out with beams of light at specific distances from each other, little spots of light. How would I know that? It doesn't indicate it in any way. It's perfectly transparent. I mean, with a 20% loss or whatever, 15% loss. Anyway, so it's odd that you think the light does this. No, I'm being perfectly consistent to the science. It's clear that light does this. You can look through a small aperture at an image, and the image won't be distorted in any way. But if you shine light through the same little hole, it'll come out ringed. Why is that? Why don't you explain why that is? I mean, that's the fact. You don't like it, fine. But you have to explain it. You can't just dismiss it as not a fact. It's a fact. So it is odd that you think the light does this. I won't go into the math. Well, math isn't going to save you of why this is the case, but you could learn on your own if you actually care. So again, another comment with nothing backing it up. You're just making claims about some kind of fact, like somehow because a mirror is transparent, it means it doesn't diffract light, intense light, shine through it, when it does. And that's what Michelson-Morley did. They didn't project an image of Bozo the Clown into the experiment and see how much it turned, how much it diffracted, and then compare the fringes on the diffracted image of Bozo the Clown. They didn't do that. They shone a beam of light into the experiment, just like I did with that laser beam. Except that theirs was white light, and they were just looking for how much the blue and red shifted. So, fuck you. You're not making an argument. Again, it doesn't qualify as an argument because there's no evidence. There's just your claims. So, fuck you. I'll delete that whole thread. Let's see. This is some BG Dave. I don't know what this crap is, but I might as well read it since I'm here. Sorry, I'm really tired. I probably shouldn't even make this video because I'm really tired. I have a tough day. Anyway. I've been watching this channel for some time. I have some interest in physics. Have read and listened to nearly all pop culture books by people like Brian Greene and whoever writes Hawking's works. I think people saying Gary denies experiments are confused. You see, in science, if you present a theory backed up by experimental results and someone challenges that experiment with a specific problem, then it's up to those who believe the experiment's hypothesis to answer the charges. Yeah, well, I mean, the responsibilities, I think, is just to be, don't be unnecessarily dismissive or rude or trite, and certainly you don't have any right to, do these appeals to popularity or appeals to authority. That's really bogus, and there's just so much of that. The truth is that Einstein's theory got famous based on an experiment that the person who conducted it didn't even think it was the kind of evidence you would want. Okay? And that's bad. And it's bad to base this assumption that the theory is good because it did this one thing it predicted, or it predicted this thing. That's really not enough to say, okay, because it has a couple of accurate statements about reality, then it's completely accurate. No. It could have, like I said, I mean, the elements that are the ones being argued are the ones that don't really have anything to do with the substance of the claim, which is the bent space being responsible for the inverse square law. So the key thing, the one you really can't test, and that's the problem. But it's the one that's the most overtly God of the gap. I mean, it's just such an invention of superpowers you give to the space. Now all of a sudden space has these superpowers, and that's not very, in my opinion, that's not very good physics when you create forces that are undescribable, undefinable in terms of their mechanical structure, inaccessible. It's just you might as well just say the planets are magically attracted by a certain amount. And so it's not very scientific, and that doesn't answer any questions. So anyway, I won't read the rest. I mean, this is obviously not a guy complaining, so I'd rather argue with the complainers and such. So I don't think I have to do any other experiment. I mean, I was thinking about trying to shine images through a grating. Even, maybe with a red laser, shooting it myself and seeing what I see. I mean, I could probably do that to the camera, like close. There's one of the spots. Oops. Okay, let's see if I can put it like right below. So that's the most intense one, right below the camera. And so what I have to do is move the whole experiment. Yeah, that's it. Okay, so that's another spot. Did you see that? Okay, so I'm pointing probably 20 degrees away from the camera. This is 30 degrees away from the camera, right there, that little spot. 30 degrees away from the camera. And here comes another one right over there. Now I'm a full 45 degrees away from the camera. You see that little spot? I don't know. But anyway, I just haven't, there's got to be some way to, I was thinking of projecting a little image and just see if you could see the image from different locations, different angles, if the whole image would resolve in an eye. But it's like you don't want to, like I said, I don't want to fuck up my eyes any more than they're already fucked up. But anyway, clearly there needs to be more explanation for why images pass through a diffraction gradient without being fucked up, but a beam of laser light does not. And it probably has something to do with the angle the light comes in at. Light coming in perfectly straight gets diffracted. Light coming in at angles doesn't. Something like that, I suppose.